Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And we have a story here which shows the big problem Scotland has with the NHS and why the NHS is in such a parlous state in Scotland. Because in the Western Isles Hospital, the management there have paid over £1 million in 1 year for just 2 consultants. And the reason is they've got them on locum basis rather than employing them. Why is this the case, you ask? Well, we're going to have a look at that within, and I've got a reason. I have an idea of why this is the case, which I will discuss within this. But when you're spending £1 million a year on 2 consultants, that's a lot of money overspent on these consultants that could be spent elsewhere. More patient care, other doctors, other nurses, upgrading the hospital, providing more medication, that kind of thing. So why are they spending so much on these 2 locums? Well, I think it does absolutely bear on the tax situation and on the employment situation for doctors in Scotland. And we'll take a look at this. But it is a stunning amount of money wasted. Let's take a look. So, we'll take a look at the article and then I'll give you the reasoning why I think this is happening. And it's just purely because I understand the ramification. You've got to look at this thing holistically and you know other stories that are related. But here we go. Scottish Health Board spending over £1 million a year on just 2 locum consultants. NHS Western Isles is splashing out nearly £1.2 million for a pair of senior psychiatrists, according to figures presented at a tribunal. Well, I think the board need to use the services of these psychiatrists, because I think the board are absolutely nuts in spending this kind of money. Unless, of course, the psychiatrists have hypnotised them. Who knows? A Scottish Health Board is spending £1.2 million a year on locum consultants, a tribunal has heard. NHS Western Isles is splashing out this money for a pair of senior psychiatrists. According to figures presented at the tribunal, this is an increase of over £100,000 on the previous year. I don't care about the increase. I want to know why you're paying these guys £600,000 a year for psychiatry. Just employ them. But of course, thereby is the nub. Labour said questions must be asked about how the SNP government has allowed NHS Western Isles to go so unsupported in terms of specialist staff. The Lib Dems urged the Scottish government to end its shambolic approach to workforce planning and increase the number of consultant psychiatrists in training to plug these gaps. The tribunal heard the locums can cost the health service £600,000 a year. That's £50,000 a month. That is some going, isn't it? That is a lot of money. This is much more than the £200,000 for employing a consultant psychiatrist in a permanent position. The Health Board said it struggles to fill positions with permanent doctors and that overspending on temporary staff has an impact on patient care. Now, why, you have to ask, does it struggle to fill these positions? Well, I'm going to say and suggest that generally the recruitment problem in NHS Scotland is down to a couple of factors. And we have discussed this before. Number one, of course, is the sheer busyness. They're so understaffed that anyone who does take a role, instead of having the normal amount of people that they would normally see, has got maybe 2 or 3 times as many people. So they were much more busy. That's number one. Number two, of course, is the tax. Why go to Scotland and earn that amount of money when you can do the same job in England and take more money home because you're taxed less? This is the brain drain that we talk about with high taxation society. Now, what they could say is, well, look, we're spending all this money on locums. Why are you spending on locums? Said, well, if we were to spend the money on hiring them under consultancy rates as a permanent, we would have to pay them more in order to attract them. And people say, well, why don't you do that? Why don't you give them an extra, say, $20,000 a year to attract them that will cover that tax, uplift? Okay, they do that. Then what does every other consultant in the NHS do? Oh, well, we'll have an extra £20,000 a year if you're dishing it out so nice. And all of a sudden, it's a massive increase, because it isn't just the 20,000 for these two. It's 20,000 for every consultant. And if every consultant gets the rise, then why doesn't every junior doctor get the rise? If every junior doctor gets the rise, all the senior nurses and the junior nurses and all the auxiliary staff, they'll all want their money. They'll all want their cut. Next thing, the salary for the NHS has gone up by billions. This is what happens when you have a high tax society. People leave, especially people with high skill knowledge. Psychiatry is a hard subject. It isn't just sitting there listening to someone who's lying on a couch and talking about things. It's much more involved. And so, like any other consultancy level job, it's not just someone who's studied to become a doctor. It's someone then who's studied on much, much more depth within their speciality. You don't want someone who's never cut open a body before to be doing brain surgery, for example. Now, there we have the problem. High tax, transferable skills, people leave. The only way to attract them, pay more. The ones that are currently there want more. Bada bing. This is basic economics, but that's the trouble. The Scottish Government doesn't have anyone who understands even basic economics. The figures were revealed during a case involving consultant psychiatrist, and I do hope I pronounced this right, Denitsa Mialova, a lady, I presume, from Russia, who was sacked after she fell ill. Yes, because it's the ending in Luva that gave me that. After she fell ill and was unable to fulfill her on-call commitments at night. Over a period of almost 2 years, the NHS paid locums to cover her while she was off sick, but sacked her after concluding that funding this arrangement was no longer viable. Mialova sued the health board for disability discrimination and unfair dismissal, but her case was rejected after the tribunal found the health board had to manage its budget responsibly. Well, it had to manage its budget responsibly? £600,000 a year for a psychiatrist? Anyway, the health board produced figures which showed that the total budget for mental health services for 2022-23 was £2.8 million, and from that, for psychiatry, the budget was £520,000. But locum costs for 2022-23 were actually £1.073 million for 2 doctors, including the second locum to cover Mialova. The tribunal was told the budget for mental health services for 23-24 had increased to £4.3 million, with a psychiatry budget of £611,000. Who knew? Who knew? But even so, that's still half of what they're paying these psychiatrists. Hire them. The projected cost of employing 2 locum consultant psychiatrists employed since her dismissal was put at just shy of 1.2 million. Scottish Labour Deputy Leader Jackie Bailey said, with so much money being spent on locum psychiatrists, question must be asked. Yeah, are these people out their minds? Anyway, we cannot have the Scottish public paying the price of SNP failure to ensure access to vital healthcare across Scotland. Scottish Liberal Democrat leader Alex Cole-Hamilton said this is a dangerous staffing crisis within NHS mental health services, and indeed, let's be honest, across the whole of the NHS in Scotland. They have got so many vacancies, and so many vacancies have been left vacant so long that they've actually just decided that they're never going to fill them, and they've cut the roll. And so they're saying, oh look, we've got this and this, all these roles have been filled, we've got virtually all. No, they haven't actually been filled. They've just said, no, we're just never going to get them filled, and take them off, and they just don't even exist as a role anymore. So there's no vacancy because the role doesn't exist. Mental health services are crying out for a new hope. The SNP government needs to end its shambolic approach to workforce planning and increase the number of consultant psychiatrists in training to plug these gaps. And this is Alex Cole Hamilton. I'm not going to go through the rest of it. It's other people talking about blah, blah, blah and saying, but yes, it is absolutely crazy, and no pun intended, but it's absolutely crazy that you're spending this money on locums because you can't afford to hire them full time, because they'll want an uplift in the value, which then all the other consultants will want. It's just a scandal, isn't it? It is just unbelievable. Only it's created. Of course it's not unbelievable. It was being created by a tax regime designed to punish people. And those who can leave will. And why should I don't blame these psychiatrists for charging it. I mean, if I got an opportunity to charge that kind of money, I would, you would, we all would. It's not a charity. But if tax was equal all across Britain, you wouldn't be in this position. But the NHS don't. But the SNP, don't get that because they're sick. Coming up. Now, I've mentioned the brain drain before, but we're talking about psychiatrists here, so this time it is quite literally true. They sit there, these people, and they work hard. They become doctors. They do their specialist training. Get all this. They're very, very highly trained. They can work anywhere. So why would they want to go and work in Scotland, where the workload is higher and where the pay is worse? It's not good, is it? You want to attract people. Make it a low-tax society. More people come. More tax gathered. Laffer curve. Please, somebody, get a book, throw it in front of Shona Robinson's face, and teach her about the Laffer curve. I'll stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please keep an eye out for all the ones that are coming today. It's just so busy. I'm hoping that there will be a guest, and I'm hoping to do a Zoom with a guest later. So keep an eye out for that one. That's assuming I can get hold of him. But until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.